This is just my patrons. If you're around tonight, then other people are going to see this stuff. I thought you might let you see this a few hours early. Right, so inside here, this is what we talk about tonight. One of these. Okay, GBS 8200, but with the magic sauce, which is this little firmware. But more importantly, what's put on it, part of a project. I will go into more details on this later, but it's an open source project. But I've always got a weird name, but you've probably heard about it anyway. I've been experimenting with it, and okay, so turn the monitor on. Right, so the monitor's on. Now, 1000. It's not scripted. Hell of a problems with the OBS. Real problems. And it works, and it does a slightly better job than this. But costs a fortune. I'll be talking more about this tonight, but I thought it might be fun to see this. Now, I have my 1000. And sitting over here is an ACA 500 Plus. Bang. Now, I've had to mess around with firmware because the fantastic thing about this project is there's an app that comes with it, and you can configure everything to do with the settings and so on. And all I've done here is messed around with the settings for a day to try and find out what works, what doesn't work. No scaling. I've been messing around with scaling, but scaling I've dropped. I don't do scaling. What I do is I move stuff around, set it to 576p. Get this, okay? And it's just it works great. It might be a little bit bright for the monitor. Don't know. But as you can see, now I'm going to be putting yeah, it is a bit bright, isn't it? Let me see if I can darken it, because on here it's fine, but on that screen, let's turn the brightness down. That's better. Right, so I'm going to put in my Vampire. I've got one of these from Denise Cousins. It does need, I've got to tweak the back because my connectors actually don't go into the cutouts. But brilliant, that's going to go on the back of there. I'm going to fit this into my 1000. But I wanted the monitor to go with it. So obviously now if I step back, you can see all the other machines I'm testing it with. Really it's just, I wanted to show you this. Let's see if, there you go. Oh, sound. No, sound, I haven't got the sound plugged in. As you know, there's speakers on this thing. Right, so why just this for the patrons? Well, this costs a lot of money. Experimenting like this, because I don't even know if the Kickstarter's going to be a success yet, it's costing me so much money. The fact I get the money from you patrons means I can continue doing this, because I mean, I get like £200 to maybe £200, £250 a month, and it allows me to it doesn't pay for everything obviously, but it does allow me to experiment, buy lots of boards. I've got, GBSs don't cost anything, but things like, I bought my 3D printer, which has been a lifesaver. I mean, I'm on my third version of this, and this is changing. So as you can see, it's got the 2 retro tinks in it. Now you wouldn't put 2 in, obviously, but it's in there to show that both will work on the same one, and even you can do the buttons by pulling. Originally I was going to push, but I couldn't get that to work without making more parts. So why not just pull? Yeah. So that's that will be part of the monitor kit. Then this is the main board. I've also been having fun blowing stuff up. Twice now I've plugged 12-volt power packs into 5-volt devices. Luckily, the first time didn't do any damage. Second time, I'm not sure. I think my bitwipe, I think my Mystics or the power supply's gone, but the D10 Nano survived it. I won't go into the story, but careful with them. So there's a lesson I'm learning. Well, not a lesson. I already knew this, but on the rear, I'm going to have not custom port, but a different to normal power lead, because so you can't plug it into something else because it's just stupid otherwise. Yeah. So look, I'm not saying none of this would be possible without you guys, but it allows me to go. I've got this money coming in, and I spend it on it. As you can see, it's hard to see actually that. No, I'm really chuffed with where this is going, as you'll probably find out tonight. And I'm pretty much going to be, unless something drastically changes, I've actually got. I was going to ask Rob to design me a custom board to put this little firmware board that connects onto it and so on. Ignore the wires going that way. All this is moving that way and switching. But I found a video of a guy's already done exactly that. He's actually on he's Byron. He's on my Facebook group, Small World, and he's happy to help. He just has to slightly modify the position of the connectors for me. So the plan, unless something goes really badly, is the monitor will have. I don't know if it's going to be every single monitor, but definitely. The main option to go for, to have a GBS with this firmware modification, all the boards, etc. on there, so that you can run any Amigas flawlessly. But it also will have a SCART, because it's got RGB SCART in. It's probably going to have composite on there as well, but that will just be patched through the main board, which is over there. So I've said about putting a composite, so we may patch that in. Project's coming along nicely. So as far as the actual design of the product, I'm kind of now finalising what I'm going to put in it. And the GBS ACE200. I know some people are going to go, oh, the quality of that. No, it's completely different with this with the new firmware. So it really makes a big difference. Now, I'm not saying it's going to be as good as an OSSC. I'm not saying that at all, because the way it works is differently. Whereas this scan, from my understanding, this scan doubles a frame, whereas the OSSC scan doubles a line. Now, what that means is, even though it's very low latency with this firmware, the OSSC has better latency, but also things like, you'll notice tiny little, not artifacts is the wrong word, but when you moving stuff around, you'll notice, well, it's hard to see actually, you can occasionally, no, I can't even see it. There is subtle differences with this, but the difference is that it's like a quarter of the price, which makes the monitor a lot more appealing to most people, because it'll have a SCART on an RGB SCART. It'll probably have the composite compatible as well, but that won't go through the OSB. That'll just go onto the board. Which, to be fair, the composite on this, I mean, I think I've shown this before, but if I switch this into, yeah, it's brilliant. I'm really pleased with it. If I switch. Switch that over to there. Yeah, BBC Basic. Still hear the music. It's a shared audio. Two composite inputs, but shared audio. But yeah, so you got that. Let's turn that off. Turn that off. Of course, you've still got your HDMI. Now, of course, the only thing as standard, what it won't have the Super VHS, and a lot of people have been asking for Super VHS. It's a bit complicated to put it in there, but that's what this is for, okay? Get the green one, but they're out of stock at the moment. I'm hoping that Mike's going to make a whole bunch of the things, and the mount frame will be pretty inexpensive, assuming, well, there's certain things involve costing and so on as far as the Kickstarter's concerned. It might be a stretch goal. If not, I'll release the designs and then you can just print your own. I mean, I printed that over there. But then put it up on Thingiverse, something like that. So if it comes to that, but hopefully it will reach a stretch goal, and then I can pay for the tooling to include this in with the monitor and have this in there, and that will give you then a secondary component, Super VHS composite, but also the component will only be if you've got that, but you won't need it because it's on the GPS. So all you need really is the cheap little one that Mike does, which will give you a really nice quality Super VHS. And then that's pretty much it as far as I think, as far as plugging retro devices into this monitor that's going to come along. You'll notice this is a lot bigger now. Internals are being redesigned. I'm going to go for the design later. But the design is, the frame is, I've redesigned the frame already. I've just got to do the plastics, the main structure again to change it. It's going to be about 1 inch deeper. That's because I need more space for this. I want it, because it's sitting that way. There is actually room, but I noticed with the power cable, if you put a normal lead into it, which we used instead of a right angled one, it's pushing up against the panel. So it's going to give it another inch. We've got plenty of space. Also makes it maybe a little bit more retro because it's a bit deeper. But there's problems with that, obviously, because it means potentially more packaging costs, but we'll see. More packaging costs, but shipping costs may go up a fraction, but we'll see. But the only reason I'm getting to a stage now where I'm fundamentally got what I want to do with this. That's what this process was all about. Blowing things up, seeing what works. This little board here is absolutely fantastic. But none of this would really, well, yes, it possibly would, but it's made life a lot easier having Patreons. So it is greatly appreciated. I wish I could show that. I wanted to do things, but there are so many rules of Patreon you can't do. I was going to look into giving, having a lorry for kit kind of thing to say thank you, but I'm not allowed to do that. So it's apart from, I know people have asked for more videos, and hopefully I'll do more videos. But again, I think people probably be happy if I was spending my time working on hardware. So this is it's coming on well, and I think once we've got the prototype boards for this. Good news is Rob Cran is on board again. I did this board here, which is the controller, which is now the final board, the one I'm settling on, unless disaster happens. But it needs a kind of a sub board just to put a lot of connectors on it, so it's just cables plugging in rather than soldering and that kind of thing. But basically, it's we're getting there, and it's not the next prototype will be very close to the finished product. It might have some subtle changes, but I pretty much know what I'm doing. It's just basically this, with the chin underneath, a little bit like, you can't see it. A little bit like the old ones with the drop-down chin with the power button on it and some of the controls on the front, and also a user port, because I still intend doing a potential upgrade to for people who really want to go to town is to put an OSSC in. My only thoughts about this is, if you're going to spend a lot of money on an OSSC or a RetroTink 5, you're not going to want to put it on one monitor. You're not necessarily going to want to put it internally in one monitor. So I'm not too sure whether that's going to be viable. Whereas with this, these boards, for me manufacturing boards and buying in bulk from China and getting a ton of these stuff and just assembling them, it's not that expensive. So I can put that in the cost. Hence me, I'm still in an hour. But my reason why I'm kind of on the fence a little bit, do I include it in everyone? Because for one thing, it's taken a bay. But the other thing is, a lot of people might not want it in there. They just want to. They don't need all these. Wrong one. They don't need the OBS, and it might be waste. But then again, you could always take it out. I mean, and then because I want to put in, obviously as you're aware, is things like the Raspberry Pi. Someone did ask me the question with the ice coolers go on it. And yes, it will, because if you was to take that out, you could have two heights, a dual height one. Put your board in with your port expanders and everything, like I did my previous kit, and then you could have that, and you've got plenty of room inside there. So I think they'll work really well. Obviously, there's plenty of 5-volt power, and it would all be inside this monitor, which would make it literally a self-contained system. Now, pair that up with one of the nice keyboards, and you've got a pretty nice little system. So yeah, I think that's so. It's good news. The reason I'm saying to people, come on, to join in tonight was just purely because I'm kind of getting ready now to go to the final design stage for the monitor, so I can get a couple more prototypes made, and then I can assemble them, and we can start doing some proper testing. But yeah, so that's all good. But anyway, thanks again for your Patreon support. I do appreciate it, and I'll hopefully see you tonight.